Hey guys, it's Woody the Unexceptional Gamer, and this video is about a cool story, bro, that I haven't told before. But before I do that, I want to talk about a little gameplay stuff. I have 3 points to make. First of all, this game is with subs. It's with you guys. It's from a live stream, and you guys are good at Call of Duty. So whenever I do well in a live stream, I'm kind of extra proud of myself because the sort of people that go in my live stream and watch my videos and stuff like that are more into Call of Duty than regular people are. Instead, they're guys who think that videos about gun attachments and capture spots and power positions are interesting and you know, I don't know, they just take the game a little more seriously than your regular pub player who, you know, sometimes they're drunk or sometimes they're little or who knows what. But so this is a lobby filled with good players. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the CM901 with the noob tube. I did a video on it, annotation on the screen. It'll pop up in a new window if you want to watch it later. And what this noob tube does is it makes it shoot faster. It actually increases the rate of fire from 666 to 750 if I recall correctly. So I test that out and sort of show it. But yeah, it's actually, it's pretty cool. This is a much better gun when you run a tube or a shotgun attachment on it. And then the last way is the way I use the noob tube. So it's not so much a killing machine, the noob tube. It doesn't really get kills for me. What it gets is it gets hit markers. So I use it a little bit like a stun in that I can like throw it around a corner or throw it in a room and see if there's any bad guys to worry about because it gives me that hit marker and it softens them up if I need to get into a gunfight. But usually if I kill a guy with a noob tube, I probably could have... you know, done it with bullets even easier because noob tubes aren't that lethal in Modern Warfare 3. But let's get on to the cool story, bro. Some of you guys have, you know, heard my stories growing up, and I've done some cool stuff. Like I was a lifeguard on the beach. I saved like over 100 lives. I've, you know, got into fights where I won and stuff like that. This cool story, bro, is actually, you know, one that I'm not quite as proud of. So let's get this thing kicked off. There was this, I don't even remember the names, but there was this guy in my high school who I didn't hang out with. I wasn't particularly close to him. But, you know, we were like sort of barely friends. I don't know how else to say it. Like, you know, we were friendly enough at school, but we never really hung out after school. And I saw him on the boardwalk. I grew up in Ocean City, New Jersey. And, you know, he had a car, and I don't think I had a car at the time. And it was just, you know, kind of exciting. It was like, yeah, you know, we'll hang out together tonight. We'll just, you know, do our thing, and it'll be cool. And it was this guy I knew, who I'm talking about, and his friend, who was totally new to me. I never even, like, heard of this guy before, but he went to my high school. It turns out I hadn't heard of him because he went to my high school off and on. He was also going to juvie. So he had gotten thrown out of our high school for like fights and stealing and stuff like that several times, but I had no idea. Well, in Ocean City, New Jersey, there's a couple bridges that like lead. Ocean City, New Jersey is an island, and so there's 3 bridges that can get you onto the island, the tallest of which is the 34th Street Bridge, for those of you that know. So I used to jump off this bridge into the water. It would be, like, I didn't even know that guy behind me. The bridge, I think at, like, high tide, maybe it was a 28, 30-foot jump, and at low tide, it might be up to, like, 40 feet, something like that. Like, that's a ballpark. So it was a pretty high jump, and something that not a lot of people did, but it was something I did all the time. At first, I was scared, and it was, like, this really big deal, and I didn't know how to do it. And then after a while, I became an expert at it. After a while, I had jumped off this bridge so many times that it wasn't really that big a deal to me. And I knew which way the tide was going to be going. I just sort of kept track of that thing as a surfer. So I knew when it was okay to jump and when, you know, you'd hardly be able to swim back to the dock. I knew when, you know, it was deep and when it wasn't. And we had kind of a little scouting routine so that boats weren't going under the bridge while we were doing it. And I became kind of a bridge jumping tour guide. So, I was hanging out with these guys that I didn't really know, and I forget, you know, if they asked me to take them, you know, because they had heard about it, or if I suggested it. But either way, it was like, yeah, you know, you want to go jump off this bridge? I'll show you the ropes. You know, I can teach you how to do it. So I got greedy right there. I went for the double and I ended up with nothing. So, you know, I was in the back of the car and there were like, I forget how many guys there were total, maybe 4 or so. And, it was probably me, a friend, and then this guy I barely knew, and this guy I didn't know at all. So in the back of the car, I took off my shirt, and it was like this distinctive, uncommon shirt. I think it had an Italian cycling company's like logo on the front. So it wasn't like cycling, like bicycle racing, Tour de France type stuff. So it wasn't like, you know, a shirt that like everybody was having, like a Nike swoosh on the corner or something along those lines. It was you know, it was my shirt. It was clearly my shirt, and that'll become important in a moment. So we were going to go jumping off this bridge, so I took my t-shirt off and I took my wallet and like emptied my pockets and stuff and kind of wrapped it up inside my t-shirt like a container. So anyway, I take him on this little tour, and we end up like we hung out on the boardwalk for a while, and then we drove over to the bridge, and we jumped off, and everything went well as expected because it was like my 90th time doing it, and I was like a qualified tour guide by this point. Here I am camping for like my AGM. I thought he was a bad guy, but anyway, yeah. So I kind of knew what the deal was, and we jumped off the bridge, and I taught him how to jump from high dives without hurting yourself, and that was that. And then somehow, like the night wrapped up, and I went into my house, and that was the end of that. And I didn't think much of it. And then afterwards, I realized, oh man, I left my shirt and my wallet, like wrapped up inside this car, and totally like forgot about it. So I talked to my friend, I guess, and you can't see my air quotes, but I talked to my friend, the guy who I knew, and say like, hey man, I left my shirt and my wallet behind. And he's like, in retrospect, looking at his face, I think he almost immediately knew, like, oh my gosh, I'm friends with a thief, and Woody's missing his stuff. Like, this isn't a good thing. And but I didn't quite read it that clearly at the moment. So anyway, he's like, yeah, maybe this other guy has it. So I ask him about it, and he claims to know nothing. And as I talked to him like more, we had friends in common and things are going on, and they're like, dude, he stole your stuff. He had to have, right? You left it in the back of the car. Now it's gone. It was clearly one of them. This guy's spending time in juvie for like being a freaking delinquent. He's stealing from people. He's beating people up or whatever. And it's got to be that guy, right? Where else would your shirt be missing? Did you take it jumping with you and leave it in the water? And obviously, no, I'm not that stupid. Well, I'm pretty stupid, but I wasn't that stupid at that moment. So I talked to the guy some more, and then this time I talked to him, and I've got more of like a puffed up chest kind of thing, like dude, where's my stuff, right? You took my stuff. Let hand it on over. I know who you are now. I know what you're all about. I know your reputation. You're a thief. So, give me my stuff back. And he would just claim that he didn't have it. And it wasn't like he claimed, like, what are you going to do about it? It was like, I don't have it. And with that, I'm like, like introduces doubt. Like, maybe he doesn't have it. Is that possible that he doesn't have my shirt and my wallet? So, I let it slide for like a day or two. And in my head, I have this like, I'm going to beat this guy up. I'm going to kick his ass, right? You can't just steal from me and get away with it. That's not cool. And I'm not like happy with who I am internally, right? I'm off balance in this Karate Kid kind of way. Like, you can't just steal from me, look me in the eye and say, don't have your stuff. Sorry, bro. Too bad. So I went over to his house. I went over to his house with the intention of either getting my stuff or like, taking a piece out of his ass. And that was what I had in mind. And, I'm like 17 years old. I'm kind of skinny, but like, good sized guy. And, he was probably like my height and build, but maybe a touch stronger. And, I went over to his house and he's like, dude, I don't have your stuff. You can look around. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So I walk into his house, I go into his room and start like searching for stuff. And I found my shirt. It was there, and I know that my wallet was like wrapped up inside of my shirt. That's he took it. He just freaking did it. And so I was like, dude, this is my shirt. And he's like, oh, is that yours? My bad. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I had your shirt. And I'm like, where's my wallet? And he goes back to the like, I don't have it type part of his story. And this continues for a little bit, and I'm thinking to myself, Woody, it's go time, right? Like, you came here to either get your shirt or kick his ass and, make that happen. So, and it's funny how this happened. He was wearing these like brown leather work boots, like, like you'd wear on a construction site. And I saw them, and somehow I just started visualizing, like, you know what? I think my odds of winning this fight are less than 50-50. And I'm a little concerned that what's going to happen at some point is he's going to start like kicking the crap out of me with these boots I'm looking at. I think there's a realistic possibility that that's how this goes down. And in the end, I just kind of like recovered my shirt, pretended that I sort of believed that he didn't have my wallet, and found myself with no options. Like, I got robbed by a guy who would probably kick my ass. And like, that was the extent of my bravery. I went to his house, I checked it out, I got some of my stuff, and decided, you know what? This isn't going to work out my way. I should stop. I don't know if you guys have another story where you look back and think, what if I should have been tougher? I don't know. It could have gone really bad, but that's my cool story, bro. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, in the top right you can subscribe to my channel. 2 videos you may have missed. Striker Madness up top, it's actually gameplay commentary where I talk about using the Striker and navigating the map, stuff like that. The bottom one is about the new YouTube. So my little world as a YouTuber has been shook up by their new layout and how they intend for you to use YouTube and stuff like that. So I give you a tour, tell you what's new, and share my opinions on it. Surprise video on the right. The description will have links to T-shirt, Facebook, and Twitter. You can follow me there, and have a nice day. Oh, if you like this video and you think it's worth it, then go ahead and like and favorite this thing and hook me up. If you don't think it's worth it, then that's okay too. Have a nice day.